The Irrational Confidence Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Irrational Confidence Podcast. It's week one of the college football season. We're back for another go-around. Week 0 was just a appetizer round of it with some great games, some great upsets. And I'm joined by my co-host, the man that can't spend more than 10 minutes in an aquarium. Why? Because there's something fishy about a place like that. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Like you said, week 0 off to a crazy start. Georgia Tech taking out Florida State. Florida State looking real rusty. Must have done a lot of talking during the offseason. Got a little tired that way. But all 4 underdogs that played, they all covered. They took care of it. So we've got a lot of close games, a lot of action, and it just shows you've got to show up and be ready to play every single game. There's no preseason in college football. Week 1 is week 1. You got to be ready to, buckle up the chin straps and hit somebody, or you're going to go down and get beat. And we got great matchups here in week 1 that are going to be very pivotal when it comes to the playoff setting. Whether it's at large bids, in some situations, in some conference games, starting off right off the bat, where you got to be ready to go. The season is not over, but it gets you on high alert right off the bat.
Yeah, we're moving right towards it, ladies and gentlemen, and it is going to be a fun year with a 12-team playoff at the end of this year. But hey, before we go any further, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We are cruising towards 2,000 subscribers. Help us get there. It doesn't cost you anything. Help us keep this show free. Not that Fresh and I make anything off of it, but hey, we don't do that for this. We do this because we love college football and have some fun with it. Helps us out. Leave us a comment down below. But Fresh, let's start cooking right into it. This was our game of the week for our poll. We put out a poll every week on Twitter. Make sure you get on there. Follow us on the socials. This won the vote. UNC is traveling up to the land of 10,000 lakes. They're playing the Minnesota Golden Gophers. At time of record, UNC is a 1-point road favorite. Fresh, what you got going on with UNC versus North Carolina?
Well, I talked during our college football preview episode that PJ Fleck is the coach that I actually think is on the hot seat. He hasn't taken advantage of the opportunity when they had the Big Ten West, and now it's just the Big Ten. And I think his opportunity of even playing for a Big Ten title is gone. There's no way Minnesota can compete at that level. So this is the kind of game that you've got to win. You've got to continue to show that you're still relevant in the landscape. The road the boat mentality and all that great stuff, it's kind of worn off. You had some windows there to win and you just never took advantage of it. You never found a way to get yourself over the top. But here, if you go out and take out North Carolina in week 1 with everybody watching, because it's going to be on Fox, 8 o'clock, everyone's going to watch. It'll say, hey, we're still here, Big Ten, ACC dominance, and that sort of the conversation or what's going to ever happen. But it still shows that you're still a viable football program, and not just and it has been in a wasted, window of opportunity. You do finally bring in Max Brosmer as quarterback. I kind of feel it's the first true quarterback. Morgan was great. Morgan fit the system. I think Brosmer's a better quarterback per se. I think Morgan, when he had him early on in his career, he was there for like 12 years. It felt like, he kind of helped to manage the offense. I think Brosmer's success at UNH, New Hampshire, if you didn't understand what I said, and 68 career touchdown passes there in the FCS level, is going to bring some experience to this Minnesota offense and allow PJ Fleck and hopefully to evolve and take it to the next level. They're going to own the line of scrimmage. They're going to run the football. They're going to keep that mentality of who they are. But Brosmer is going to give them a little more passing attack they've been actually lacking for a long time. And if that does come into play in this week 1 affair, it will allow them to just tick by tack evolve an offense and become more efficient to compete against the Oregons, Ohio States, Michigans, Wisconsins, Nebraskas, Penn States, Maryland's in the Big Ten that are going to be coming hunting for them, and very, very soon. Looking at North Carolina, Amari Hampton, arguably the best back in the country. This is going to be a different kind of a spread offense here. You don't have the Drake Mays. You don't have the Sam Howells at quarterback. Johnson's been around forever. He started at LSU, then was A&M. Now he's here at North Carolina. He's a much more of a pocket passer. It means Hampton's not going to have as many holes from that read option perspective. He's going to have to hit the hole hard. They're going to have to be able to block for him up front. The receiver talent is a lot of undeveloped talent right now. Des Walker's gone. The guys that have been there, Josh Downs, they're no longer there. It's a whole different kind of offense and how they're going to build around Hampton. You cannot let Hampton get going so that's where Johnson gets a chance to slowly run the play action and develop the offense from there. You've got to pressure Johnson. He's not mobile. He's a lefty. You've got to bring the heat and take away the running game. Sell out on the run, and from there, force Johnson to beat you. If that happens, Minnesota's going to be in great shape. If you allow Johnson to dictate the slow play action, maybe dumping off, or the running game gets, ahead of it. The line is just leaning on you late in the ball game. Carolina's going to run away with this football game. Both defenses, I think, are unknown at this point. We've kind of lost some talent. Jeff Collins taking over there at the DC at North Carolina. He was there at Georgia Tech. He started out as an assistant coach at Florida before he took the Tech job. Maybe him being a DC is better for him being a head coach. He did a terrible job at Tech, but we still, what kind of defense is he going to kind of implement there for the Tar Heels? We do have some talented players. Kamine Rucker at defensive end and Power Eccles at linebacker, two solid players in that defense for the Tar Heels. If they should show up and they can lead, it gives them a chance to be able to win this football game. Talent-wise, I think Carolina has had bigger games and bigger experience, but they've never lived up to it. Minnesota, nothing really pops off the radar for me, but that's maybe the kind of way that they want it. Don't think about us. Let us sort of lay out there. Let us row the boat in the lake, if you will, and then we'll come up and get you. This is going to probably be a sloppy football game too. Early, first game of the year, everybody's watching. Guys going to be a little nervous. It's going to get a slow start to it, and the second half it'll pick up its pace. I think Carolina's recruited better over the years. They've been able to put together some players. The quarterback play is not going to be what it used to be, so don't expect that. But I think Carolina finds a way to win the football game late on the legs of Amari Hampton. Minnesota will be heavily involved maybe for the first half, and then they'll fade in the second half. It'll be ugly, but it'll be a W for Carolina, and we'll move on to week 2 from there.
Fresh, it's interesting because I would start digging into Minnesota a little bit more here. And it's not one of those teams that you, in the offseason, that you're like going to dive deep into. UNC maybe a little bit more because of their success last year in the ACC. And they have a guy like Amari Hampton who is just an absolute beast there. I am curious on what the impact is going to be without Drake May this year and see if they're able to get the same level of success. But the more I looked at Minnesota, they returned so much of last year's team. And that could be a blessing and a curse. Darius Taylor, he takes over. He was the leading rusher last year. And you take a look at the Golden Gophers, they ran the football over 500 times last year, only threw it about 300. They're going to do the same thing again. And on top of that, Minnesota returns almost their entire offensive line this year. So it's all people who have previous years of experience there. It's a lot of kids that, take a look at one of their, the right guard, Quinn, transferred in from Notre Dame. He's got some skill there. This is a decent Minnesota team. The interesting thing is Joyner on the Minnesota defense. Is he able to continue to build off of last year's success as a pass rusher and be able to take over this football game? Max Johnson is going to be the starting quarterback there. We've talked about Max Johnson was over at A&M prior. What is he able to give them? What is he able to give them as a quarterback? We've taken a look at, like you said, Drake May. Prior to Drake May, you've had some Sam Howell over there. It's interesting. It really is going to be intriguing to see if this North Carolina team can bring it together. I definitely think North Carolina has the coaching advantage here as well. You take a look at what all the games Mac Brown has been in. I think he's going to get these kids prepared and ready to play. I go back to a couple of years ago, though, Fresh. Ohio State opened up at Minnesota early on in the season, and Minnesota, if it wasn't for a couple of injuries in that game, Minnesota was running the football all over Ohio State in that game. And I'm looking at something this year. If Minnesota goes into this game and runs the ball 45, maybe, dare I say, 50 times a game because UNC can't stop them, I think that this game could really get almost, I don't want to say sloppy because that's not a sloppy game, but like an ugly old school smash mouth type of game where every possession is really going to matter. This game is going to come down very close, but UNC may only touch the ball 6, maybe 7 times in this game because if Minnesota is able to control the clock, control the possession time, this could be a big one for them. And I think that they could pick up a marquee win. I'm going with Minnesota. For some reason, I like Minnesota in this game, probably because it's at home. I feel like both these teams have a lot of questions that we could ask about each one of them. So I'm going with the Gophers in I guess, an upset because Vegas has them favorite.
I mean, it's going to be, hopefully it's not a snooze fest because it's the only game that everyone's really going to have to watch on a national level on the opening night.
It's true.
PJ Fleck is a good coach. Max been around for a long time in Carolina. I think last year they took it on the chin and they had a real rough season. And if this game goes wrong, if they don't get a win here,
Right.
with the way the ACC is kind of looking across the board, it could be a big tumble. And you know what? Maybe Max at the very end, I'm not saying, but maybe that leads to Max saying, hey, I need to step away. If they get a
Right.
win, it gives them a boost. A lot of young guys can be able to jump from there and maybe take it and get some experience and get some growth and some confidence going forward. But you hate to put it all in the season opener, but that's kind of what it feels for Carolina right now.
Right. And keep an eye on JJ for North Carolina. I'm going to be, while Des Walker got all the the headlines from last year, JJ Jones was actually their leading receiver. Didn't get into the end zone as much, but is he able to kind of take that next step as a wide receiver? Another interesting matchup to see if Minnesota's going to have an answer for him.
Yeah. And you got to find some explosive to help take the pressure off of Hampton.
All right, Fresh. Let's go to our second game for this weekend. This is going to be the boiling hot game down in the swamp. It's going to be soupy. It's going to be hot as all get out. It's the Miami Hurricanes. They're a 2.5-point road favorite going into the swamp, playing the Florida Gators. Time of record spread is 2.5. Fresh. Bubble Scream Billy comes back. What's he got going on for UF in this game?
Well, first off, Miami and Florida State should play each other every single year.
Right.
The years that it's gone by were, even though 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Miami and Florida opened up in Orlando, it should be a home and home every single year for the state. It's a proud program. You got to keep that going. All right. That aside, two coaches that are on the hot seat and for different reasons. Billy Napier, you've been given every resource in Florida you possibly can want. We've seen all the videos. It's time to start putting some wins together. Yes, your schedule is difficult. It's extremely difficult, but you've got to start putting some wins together. You have, last year's loss to Arkansas was dreadful. And I think everybody else would agree with that. Your first game ever as a head coach, you beat Utah in the swamp. So we've seen both ends of the spectrum. You've beaten Tennessee, but you lose to Kentucky. It's all back and forth. What team shows up here? Graham Mertz is back again for his 5th or 6th or 12th year, whatever it feels like. Montrell Johnson had knee surgery in early August. Maybe he plays this week, maybe not. It's still up in the air. I haven't seen anything different. It's arthroscopic, so not too extensive, but you never know. No ET on this team, obviously. Pearsall's gone. You have Eugene Wilson's leading receiver. If the Gators are going to win this football game, they're going to have to be physical. They're going to have to be physical and buck up, especially on defense. You've got to, I don't care if it's 3-0 to win. You've got to play the way you played versus Utah 2 years ago in the swamp to open the season. You've got to come out there, hit people in the mouth. Mertz is not Anthony Richardson. I know he won that football game for them back, 2 years ago, but you've got to find ways to just be tough and grind it out. A win is a win and nobody's going to have you apologize for it. But you've got to find a way to dig deep and prove it. Because if you lose this ball game, things could unravel pretty quickly. The back end of the schedule is loaded, but if you start losing this one, things start happening. There's, kinks in the armor. It can get out of control real quick. The rumor wheels, the rumor mill starts heating up. It becomes bad. On the other side, Mario Cristobal. You came to Miami. You're at Oregon, had all the resources. You come to Miami, all these high-heralded recruits. You go out and get Cam Ward. You go out and get Damian Martinez, a couple other transfers in the portal this past year. It's time to start winning. What you've done at Miami has been pretty pathetic the past couple of years you've been there. The last year's loss was the laughing stock when you lost to Georgia Tech and all you had to do was knee the game out. You lost that one. This is your sign. You've got to come back and return Miami football to where it was in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Because if you don't do this and you lose to Florida, what everyone says, maybe an average Florida team, above average maybe, your meter's going to start heating up. Yes, you can still win the ACC. It's not going to affect potentially getting the playoff from that perspective, but the perception of the program will take a major hit. When you bring all this talent, you spend all these resources, you already hear stories about boosters and their NIL deals, or they're going out of business because they've spent too much money getting players on your campus. It's now time to get those players to show up and win on Saturday. It is going to be about 10,000 million degrees. 3:30 kickoff in the swamp should not be happening on the first weekend of the season. The TV is going to have some poor person get a heat stroke, unfortunately. But you've got to come out there, embrace the heat, embrace the humidity, and just take care of business. It doesn't have to be pretty. You just got to win the ball game. 0-1 and 1-0 are two different things at the very beginning of the season. Cam Ward, You won the lottery. Look what Florida State happened. They lost the lottery to Cam Ward dealings, and they got DJU, and they were terrible. You've got to take this asset you have in Cam Ward and let him loose. Unleash him. Let him throw. Let him be an athlete like he was at Washington State and do some work. Damian Martinez, a stud of a running back, dominate their Oregon State. You went and got him. Release him. Punish them. Come out in the second half and just run Damian Martinez down their throats and Florida quick because the humidity will eventually catch up with them. They're getting worn on all day long. You have the assets. You have the firepower. You have an offensive line that's loaded. You have a lot of talent on defense. Reuben Bain Jr., Maaga, the linebacker. You've got to come after and get it done. If you don't get it done today on this opener in Florida with everyone watching, is anyone ever going to take Miami seriously ever again? That's the pressure here.
Right.
You can still win the ACC, but you have a chance of beating a rival in the state, announcing your return, and getting some big time profile expectations really under wraps. Run the football, play with your athletes, be Miami. Be Miami. If this team doesn't get it done versus Florida squad, I think you actually might be starting to feel the heat. And the only way you'd be able to survive is if you won the ACC, win 12-1 from here, including this loss, and got yourself a top 4 seed. But you've got to take care of business right now. Billy, you need a miracle. You've got to rally your troops. I mean, I don't like the Gators. I'm a dog, as we all know, but you've got to rally this entire program here. If you lose this ball game, I actually feel sorry for you because it's just going to continue to keep hearing this noise and noise and noise and noise. The rat poison all out there. Get Graham Mertz doing his thing. Get the defense to play. You don't have to win big. Just 6-3, 10-7, whatever it has to be. Be ugly, be physical, and attack Miami. Be aggressive. You have the home crowd. You have the humidity. Attack Miami and try to get it done. In the end, I think Miami has just enough athletes to win this football game late. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be humid. It's going to be hot. I think Miami wins like a 24-17, 24-14 ball game late in the fourth quarter. Martinez run it down their throat. Florida will play spirited, but Miami has more athletes and more players in the end to win the football game.
I think Florida's going to jump out to a quick lead in this game, playing off some emotions, especially with the crowd, and then slowly lose their grip with this game as this game goes on here. The thing is, folks, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I am not a fan of Mr. Graham Mertz. I don't think he is a great quarterback. I think he shows that he's improved somewhat. I shouldn't say I used to call him the worst quarterback in the entire NCAA college football. He has gotten better. He's still, to me, not a good quarterback, though, as well. And the fact that you're going to have to pin your hopes and dreams on this guy, I'm a little nervous about that. Maybe I'll be wrong this weekend. And for Florida fans, I hope I am wrong for you guys as well here. But this Miami team has got to make a statement here in week 1. And especially, fresh, we know what they got in Cam Ward. We know what they got, especially in Damian Martinez. I think Damian Martinez at Miami, if the offensive line can block for him, they're going to be very, very difficult there. The real thing is going to be the Miami. Are you able to get the Miami of old swagger? Is that defense going to be the Hurricane defense of old? Do they come in there and go, take a look at a lesser quarterback and be able to just completely shut you down for 3-4 quarters where you can barely move the football outside of moving it maybe inside the 20s here? I'm telling you, Bain and Magiawa, hopefully I'm saying that right there, but those two guys should be like licking their chops to get after this quarterback here. I know Florida has a half decent offensive line, but again, if you guys are going to be that level of stud defense, if you're going to be what these boosters have put into this program here, it starts with that defense for the Hurricanes there. They have the talent on offense. I don't think Florida is going to be able to shut them down long enough to get this game in there. I'm going to go Miami 27, Florida 17. I think Florida's going to jump out to maybe like a 14-3 type of lead, 14-7 type of lead. And then all of a sudden, the defense is going to wake up and they're going to shut down that Florida offense. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see Cam Ward and Damian Martinez just take over this football game. And all of a sudden, the Hurricane is going to ravage the swamp.
If Florida has a chance, they have to do exactly what Georgia Tech did to Florida State. Just run the ball, run the clock, 12, 15 play drives. And the problem is you got to touchdowns at the end of those drives. You got to find ways
Right.
to score and kill the clock. But that's kind of, you have to be out physical and you have to dominate and control the clock to win the football game.
Right. Yeah, you're going to need to control the time and possession by a country mile in this game. So,
Oh, great. It's just,
uh,
use the elements to your advantage.
all right, Fresh, let's go to one of my favorite games this week. Everyone knows what this one is. The Penn State Nittany Lions are traveling to one of our personal favorite locations, Morgantown, West Virginia, where we recently found out, folks, it is illegal to burn couches in Morgantown. But for just a low cost of $350, you can buy a candle in the shape of a couch and burn that because there's no rule about burning candles. The Mountaineers are going to face the Nittany Lions. Penn State, another road favorite here, Fresh. A lot of road favorites. It's interesting to me. Penn State, time of record, is an 8.5-point favorite. Fresh, what you got for the Nittany Lions versus the Mountaineers?
Can James Franklin win big games? That's the first
Right.
thing we have to look at. Can James Franklin win big games? There's a lot of talent from this Penn State team, especially on the defense, that's no longer there. A lot of guys got drafted last year. Where's that next layer of Penn State players? We know they have them. They recruit very well. They have top 10 recruiting classes every year. Right? Where's that next layer of player that's going to show up in this first game up in, Morgantown against a feisty, aggressive, upstart, up and coming West Virginia football team? You got to be ready to play. Last year, West Virginia really wasn't there at this time. They were kind of like still getting a feeling for themselves, and they were at home. Now you're on the road against a team that has confidence. They found their footing between Garrett Green, White, and Donaldson, the two running backs. That right there allows them to build off of that. Know they can compete with you. Who's going to stand up for the Nittany Lions? You have two great running backs. I'm still not sold on Drew Lar. You lost, Fatanal, the offensive lineman. Who's going to be able to step up the O line there? Julian Fleming comes in from Penn State to play receiver. When's the last time we had a big time Penn State wide receiver? Allen Robinson, maybe? It's been a while. But where's this offense going to come from and add an extra layer? Because right now, if this West Virginia defense can tackle and they can pop you at the line of scrimmage, it can maybe make it for a rough afternoon where you're stuck with yourself in a hornet's nest. The clock is going to move fast in this ballgame because both teams have great running backs, a great collection of
Right.
running backs. They're kind of like two law firms, actually. I think that's what I wrote down. You got the law firms of Donaldson and White for Singleton and Allen. The clock's
Right.
going to move quickly. You're going to turn the clock. Defense are going to get worn out. You're not going to get many possessions if that's happening. So you've got to find ways to punch it in and score and be physical and announce your dominance. Penn State, you are Penn State. Everyone's talking about your playoff team, dark horse Big Ten champion contender, every single year, but you never win the big games. This is a big game. You're on the road. All eyes are on you. Can you get it done? You don't have to be ugly. Doesn't have to be pretty. Doesn't have to be ugly. You just got to get a win. James Franklin, how have you evolved as a head coach? What have you done this offseason after last year? Because you know what? You had your game versus Michigan, you lost. You had your game versus Ohio State, you lost. You had your game versus Ole Miss, you lost. Your three big games last year, you lost. This is your first one here to redeem yourself, or we're going to get the same retread every single time. You beat everybody else in the league, and you play your tough teams, and you lose. You're 9-3, you're 10-2. You get to go to a great bowl game because Michigan and Ohio State both went to the playoff. Show me something, please. Drew Lar, this is your third year as a starter. It's time for you to start growing up and leading this offense. It can't just be the two running backs. You've got to start taking over, making big boy throws. McSorley was there. Clifford was there. They've had quarterbacks that got the job done. Somehow you still haven't gotten done yet. We're waiting for it to become a thing. We're waiting for you to show up and be the guy and wear it on your back. If that doesn't happen in this ballgame, I think there should be some whispers of, is he our real quarterback? Is this guy actually to get us to a Big Ten title or the playoff? Do we actually trust him? You've got to show up here on Saturday afternoon in a hostile environment and find ways to win the football game. Even if it's a big third down pass here or there, running off play action, making key throws. You don't have to throw for 400 yards, but you've got to make the big boy throws to get the chains moving and to put points on the board. If you don't, how are you expected to do it versus anybody else if the season gets tougher? You're going to have to play Oregon. You're going to have to play Wisconsin down the road as well as Ohio State. You've got to find ways to grow up and figure it out. When I look at this ball game, outside of that, the defense, A.J. Harris, the big-time Herald recruit of Georgia, transfers up there to Penn State. Now he's going to lock down one of the sides of the field. How is these transfers? He's one of many that are joining this Penn State defense. How fast do they gel? How fast do they get on the same page under Tom Allen's defense? If they're ready to rock and roll and have the communication down, they'll be okay. If there's some issues in that secondary, issues in linebackers and guys not being on the same page, you're going to start seeing gaps in the defense and things are going to start unraveling pretty quickly. AJ Harris is a solid player. If he can lock down one side of the field, it's going to help them in the line defense and help them get back to what they really should be. The other side, Garrett Green, this might be actually your biggest game. You've actually, started kind of been working through it, but now the pressure's on you, the eyes are on you, the expectations are there. We have you in our top 30. Can you show up and get the job done with expectations of being a contending team and actually showing up and playing at a high level and contending for a Big 12 title or being an outlier dark horse for a playoff spot? This is your chance to showcase and get it done. I'm really intrigued at how you do that. You have great athletic ability. I want to see how you take it to the next level against a very elite defense that you're going to see right here on Saturday afternoon. It's just going to be a fun ball game. I think we're going to be very limited in points, but time possession is going to be pretty high. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say West Virginia wins 24-20. I just don't trust Penn State in a big game. I think West Virginia, the home crowd, a little extra juice. They're going to find a way to get a touchdown late and shock Penn State. And we're going to go, let's go Mountaineers. Let's go drink some beers.
Fresh is buying one of those candles shaped as a couch. His apartment or his condo complex will love that when it's burning outside.
Put it out there in the parking lot.
Right, perfect. Fresh, you hit a bunch of great stuff there that I agree with on it as well. I'm asking a lot of questions about the Penn State defense, and especially, can they show and take over a game outside of the two running backs? Because I will say this, I think West Virginia, obviously, most teams in college football will have a difficult time stopping Singleton and Allen together. Like, you have to kind of stem the tide and make sure one of those guys just doesn't go off and have a day. And almost you want to force Drew Allard to beat you. And Julian Fleming, probably the best wide receiver they've had in like 3 or 4 years. But again, is he going to be the product of where he was a good wide receiver as like the second or third guy for Ohio State? Or is he a great wide receiver in his own right? We will find that answer in a game like this. That question is still out there. As for West Virginia, everything you talked about there, Fresh. Green, Donaldson, White. Also remember, guy like Hudson Clement. Love that kid. Only a redshirt sophomore. That kid could be definitely a game changer for them. Also, they bring in Bray from Oklahoma State. Again, it's going to be which one of these teams can stop the other guy and then just completely dominate the line of scrimmage on when they're on offense. That's who's going to win this football game. I'm excited for this game. Like, this is a noon kick on Saturday. I know that it's the same time as a game that's happening down in Atlanta, so you're going to have to be flipping back and forth between this.
I'll be flipping between it all. I'll watch on the ticker.
Yeah. This is going to be the real game that I am excitedly locked in on and cannot wait to see, because this is going to be a fun time down there in Morgantown. I am 100% with you here, Fresh. Let's go Mountaineers. Let's go drink some beers. I don't know. If West Virginia wins this, I expect the entire Mountaineer fan base that is of age to go full on Stone Cold Steve Austin, take two, smash them together and enjoy yourself there. I love this Mountaineers team, man. I think they're winning 28-21 in this football game. I think you're right. It won't be decided into the fourth quarter. But Garrett Green, who says he really looked up to a college player by the name of Johnny Manziel, wins it with his legs in this game. And I think that West Virginia, and people are going to be saying, why in the world did anyone pick Penn State? Kind of like we talked about with Georgia Tech and Florida State. People get kind of in those shadows there. West Virginia, this is a really good football team.
If West Virginia wins, Pat McAfee will be epic TV. It'll be what he could do on live TV or his show would be appointment television for everyone. It'd be pretty dang hilarious.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
But what if Penn State does lose? The heat that's on James Franklin, we've got to start having that conversation. Because again, it's another high profile game that he does not win. And that can really become his undoing, where you recruit great, but you don't get it done on the field when it matters. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but this is actually a big thing for Penn State. If you look at the name, it's Penn State. Well, you're Penn State by the name right now. You're 10-2 every single year. Are they falling into that Mark Richt Georgia level where 10-2 is great, but when are you going to start winning the Big Ten?
Yeah. All right, Fresh. The game that is in Viva Las Vegas. This is the ABC 7:30 kick on September 1st. Oh man, Sunday night football for here. It's the USC Men of Troy. They're playing the LSU Tigers. LSU at time of record is a 4-point favorite in this game. Fresh, we're going to talk some about the offense here, but really the major question for both of these squads is which team can improve on the defensive side of the football. What do you got between the two of them?
Well, first off, life after Caleb, life after Jaden. Two
Right.
quarterbacks, high draft picks, very, very talented players. They're gone. Now it's Miller, Moss, and Garrett Nussmeier. Not the same kind of quarterbacks that they're replacing, but they both have experience. They both have actually gotten game time. They've played. They've looked calm and proficient in their offense. But you're not going to have the athletic leg version of that offense that's going to be extending the game. It's going to be a little more pocket presence. How both these coordinators, how both these offenses evolve around that different change, because Jaden Daniels was the leading rusher for LSU last year. It's unheard of that the quarterback at LSU is the leading rusher on the season, and it was by a wide margin over the rest of the backfield. Who's going to step up and replace him? Is it going to be Josh Williams, Caleb Jackson, somebody else on the depth chart? Who's going to take over that rushing role? And how's that offensive line, which is very, very good right now, Senior Layden, dictate the pace of that football game? Nussmeier had experience. He's thrown some balls before, but now the pressure's on him to lead win. And with the defense that was terrible last year, if they don't improve, I don't think he has enough ammunition for himself to get the offense to a point where they're going to win a bunch of football games on his arm alone. They've got to have more of a balanced team. They've got to have more of a collective effort from LSU's perspective. Looking at USC real quick, Lincoln Riley. I know in the preview, you are what you are. You are a Hollywood marriage. You're a celebrity, dating experience. You're basically J-Lo and Ben Affleck. It looks great on the outside, but there's a lot of issues going on underneath the surface. Caleb on that offense just couldn't pull it out. They didn't show up in big games the first year. They lost to Utah in the Big 12 title, Pac-12 title game. Then lost to Tulane. Last year was a abysmal season across the board. Defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Have you solved all those marital relationship issues internally in this program and got yourself through some therapy and be able to move around? Is that because you hired a new DC, you brought in some new players from the transfer portal? Or are those lingering issues still there and you're just trying to mask it? That's what I want to see in this football game. We saw it at Oklahoma. Great offense, terrible defense. We saw it the first 2 years at USC. Great offense, terrible defense. Are we going to get the same product here? Because right now that's your MO. Great offense, high control for winning quarterbacks. We put up tons of points, but we can't stop anybody. If you can't stop anybody in the Big Ten, you're in trouble. Their offenses aren't as great, but the games are still going to matter. And you're not going to be able to stop anyone. You're still going to lose. This is a game right here where you have a chance to go out and beat LSU, beat an SEC football team, and make a statement that you have fixed your problems and you are ready to play with the big boys. If you get blown out or beat, same old Lincoln Riley, same old USC. It's all flash in the pan, and there's nothing there. That's what I want to see. Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, wide receiver. The two of them, how we get them involved in the offense. Barry Alexander's the center of that defense right there for USC. Who else wants to show up? How does the defensive coordinator get guys in place? He had a great defense at UCLA before he came across town. How does he get them involved and on the same page to execute against LSU offense? LSU, CJ Daniels, Kyron Lacey at wide receiver, Mason Taylor at tight end. Very, very good offensive line. Will Campbell at left tackle is the number one player there, in my opinion. It's your story now. Guys are gone. Jaden Daniels is gone. How do you take over and dictate? Do you run the football a little bit more? Brian Kelly's offenses in the past are a little more run focused than they were under Jaden Daniels. So to get back to that philosophy of we're going to grind it out. We're going to play 3 yards in a cloud of dust, 4 yards in a cloud of dust. Use our receivers when we need to, but we don't live off the passing game. Change the culture. Control the ball. Control the clock. Let your defense rest. Harold Perkins Jr., your freshman year, you're absolutely untouchable, dominant player. Last year, you got moved positions. You were invisible. Going back to middle linebacker this year, how do you become an all-pro? How do you become a top 5 draft pick, top 10 draft pick, all-American player again? I want to see your athletic ability. I want to see you hunting down running backs, making plays on tight ends. Where is your ability? You can show up and get this Tiger defense back on pace and up to the standard. This is how LSU teams can be in good shape. If you, again, do not make plays, LSU's in trouble. It's up to Perkins to get that defense on the same page, ready to go. Um, I got a feel we're gonna have a lot of points in this ball game. I don't think both defenses are
Mhm.
gonna be settled in just yet. I got a feel we're gonna have like a 35, 31, 38, 35 kind of game. I trust Garrett Nussmeier more than I trust Miller Moss, and I'm gonna go with LSU from that factor alone. But it's gonna be a battle. It's gonna come down. It's gonna be a lot of excitement on a Sunday night there in Vegas. A lot of cool experiences. But in the end, LSU squeaks it out and just gets by USC.
First, Fresh, this is the first time that we've talked LSU football and you didn't mention the smell of bourbon and crawfish
Well,
going on.
listen,
It's in Vegas. I get
The
it.
smell in Vegas is a lot different. This is more, there's stuff out there you don't want to smell.
Yeah, the casino oxygen right there. You need that casino oxygen to stay awake for sometimes some of these games that are this late. Fresh for me for LSU, besides the defense, and again, I could go on the defense and say you hit it right with Perkins there, but another name that I'm watching is Savion Jones and seeing if he can be that dominant defensive end for the Tigers in a football game like this. Is he able to get after Moss, and is he able to really be a wrecking ball from that end position as well? But for LSU, really on offense, I know Nussmeier, who I want to say, like, I don't know why, but I want to always call him Doug Niedermeyer from Animal House and just be like, is that pledge pin on your uniform? Like, I don't
Wow.
know why he has that name that I want to change that, but I'm trying so hard not to make that mistake. For
Wow.
me, it comes down to Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson, the two top running backs for this LSU team. LSU was known for having this elite running game for years. For years, they had this just dynamite running game. And you take a look at what they did last year with Jaden Daniels, and it was this dynamite passing game. And he was their leading rusher, 1,100 yards last year. You got to replace that. The easiest way to replace that is not with, because Nussmeier is not a quarterback that's going to be a running quarterback. He is a little more traditional. He's a little more pocket passer with that. So a guy like Jackson and Williams, they can really take a lot of that pressure off. And what happened to USC last year? They would get gashed on the ground. They would have to bring extra men up into the box. They'd bring 7, 8 into the box, trying to stop the running game. And with Nussmeier, you do have the arm talent to throw the football all over the field. I look at USC and I am picking against USC until you prove it to me. That does not mean I have this ultimate confidence in LSU and what they're doing, because I need to see them make the improvements on defense. Like, that defense was Swiss cheese last year. You take a look at games, they're having to win games 54-52 or something like that. I need to see two things. I need to see LSU run the football, and I need to see LSU play better defense. I see those two things. I'll jump on board LSU as being a legit contender in the SEC. I got LSU winning this football game. I agree with you, Fresh. Ton of points in this game. I didn't even look at what the over-under is right now. Oh, I'll have it real quick here. Over-under is at 63.5 right there. I would be tempted to take the over on that one pretty easily. Fresh is going way over the over. So I like this game a lot. But again, I think LSU is going to walk away with the W.
If USC wins it, I think then they become a contender for a playoff spot.
Right.
Because that shows, all right, at least they were able to win a big game and they were able to get themselves under control. If they lose in an ugly fashion, it's not going to get any easier for them. And Lincoln Riley's going to have to do some soul searching.
Right. All right, Fresh, let's go to the state of Georgia in Atlanta. ABC do better. This is a noon kickoff. This should be a little bit, at least a better later kickoff for this one. The Clemson Tigers are facing off the Georgia Bulldogs. Rematch from a couple years ago. At time of record, Georgia is a 13.5-point favorite in this game. I think that's real low for this football game. They're giving a lot of faith to that Clemson team. But Fresh, you're the resident Georgia fan, so I'll let you have it.
Well, first of all, I'll start with the Clemson side. They've been getting bashed and beaten up for a long time. They're still a resilient football team. Maybe the talent's not what it was under the Watson Lawrence years. But they could have been down and out last year, and Tyler from Spartanburg got them sort of fired up, and they won 5 straight at the end of the year. They weren't fantastic, they weren't dominant, but you know what? They still won ball games. Um, got a lot of guys from the NFL draft up this year, and not many guys have been entered in. They don't hit the transfer portal, but there's still going to be some sort of grit and unity from Dabo. This is going to be more of a calling of his entire program standard right here. If they come out and put up a fight and hold the dogs, and I'm not saying win, but if they put up a fight and they keep it tight and they play very aggressive and tight football and they tackle and they pop people in the mouth, all right, you know what, Dabo, you do have your program works and the way your image in is fine. Like you got something there. If they come out and get beat down, blown out, we're gonna start looking at Dabo like, what were y'all doing those few years when you were winning? There was some stuff going on there. You might have been NIL before NIL existed. I'm bringing some kids in there because the talent pool is not what it used to be. There's going to be some questions raised of, hey, go to the portal. What's going on? Your recruiting kind of slipped a little bit. What's happening there up in upstate South Carolina? But this ballgame is going to be that kind of referendum on that Clemson football program. Either they're one or the other. As Kirby Smart likes to say, you're elite or you're not. And that's kind of where this game's going to go. From the Georgia perspective, the last time you were in this building, you got beat by Alabama. Maybe you came in, maybe you thought you were like, hey, Jalen Milroe, we got this thing, but we'll be in the playoff, whatnot. Ball had bounced our way a few times. We lost. Dealt with our situation down the Orange Bowl, moved on. What kind of football team comes into this in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and shows up? Is it some team that's aggressive like we saw in Miami? Or is it a team that thinks, oh, we're playing Clemson, we're a 13-point half favorite, we'll get this thing taken care of, we'll walk in, we'll sweep the floor with them and move on out. And before you know it, you're in a ball game in a dogfight. Kirby Smart, the rest of this program, you've got to be able, I got full faith he's going to do it, but you still have to see it. Where's the focus of this football team? Are they determined to get this football game under control and assert their dominance as a top 5 program, number 1 overall, right now currently ranked, in the nation? Or are they going to be a team, well, hey, you know what? Yeah, they're good, but those guys aren't organized, or they're not ready to play in big games. I don't think that's the case, but that's going to be looked at right now in this football game being kicked off at noon. Everyone's going to watch. The Dogs need to come in aggressive like they did versus Oregon 2 years ago. From the very first snap, hitting people in the mouth, flying all over the field, throwing points on the board in a ridiculous amount, and absolutely just blowing the opponent out. If you do that and assert your dominance, you're going to basically say right off the bat, we are the number 1 team in the country, and everything's going to have to run through us. We are going to get that number 1 seed. Obviously, a lot more games have to come down the stretch, but you've got to come out and assert the dominance right off the bat early and make sure it's known. If you let Clemson hang around, you never know what could happen. Phil Mafah for Clemson and Cade Klubnik, they're okay players. Have they grown in the next year of Garrett Riley's spread offense? Have they been able to get some more experience? Have they gotten more comfortable in that offense? We're going to find out. Because if you let them hang around, they might be able to make some plays down the stretch and win the football game. I'm not saying they're great, but if you let the team hang around, ball bounces their way, they might be able to get an upset. You've got to come out and assert the dominance if you're the Dogs. You cannot do what happened last time you were in the Dome, where you sort of coach through it, sleepwalk through the first half, and before you know it, you're in the ball game, and maybe you're not in the right end of it. Clemson is going to have talent. Peter Woods at tackle, Sammy Brown, Barrett Carter, the best linebacker in my opinion in the country. They're going to have some guys in that front 7 box in the defense. The secondary got either transfer portal or draft class got decimated. There's a lot of inexperience. Carson Beck, it's his 2nd year in this offense. You and Mike Bobo need to attack the secondary for Clemson. Get vertical with the passing game, push the ball downfield. From that perspective, then you run the ball to end the ball game. But you've got to attack this young secondary, challenge them, see if they're really up to their snuff and ready to go. I got a feeling they're going to be doing a lot of supporting. Maybe bring some extra blitzes to help that youthful secondary, try to bring some extra pressure. You're going to have a lot of hot reads. You're going to have a lot of man coverage. You've got to find ways to get comfortable and make those adjustments and make those plays happen down the field. If you use that plethora of receivers, you're going to hurt Clemson. Eventually, they will fade. But you've got to be aggressive. You cannot play scared in this ball game. Come out and assert the dominance from the very start. Another thing that we're going to see, and I think it's going to be a common theme across the board for any program that has any kind of playoff aspirations, a lot of rotations. This is a long season. If you think through the playoff and how it goes conference championship game plus 3 to 4 rounds of the playoff, you're going to need depth. Guys are you're not going to be a freshman not playing all year long. Guys are going to get lots of valuable snaps with the game on the line, rotating players. Are all those players on the same page? Have all the young guys got up to speed? If you put a young guy out there to get him on the field, Is he ready for that experience? Does he understand the calls? Is he ready to see what he's about to see on that field? And that right there is going to be a big X factor, I think, not just in this ballgame, but going forward, because Georgia's going to play a lot of young guys. A lot of teams in playoff contending spots are going to play all young guys to get them experience early. But if they're not ready and they make a miss on a play, that could impact the path of the team. So you've got to get these guys coached up, be ready for a lot of players on the field and a lot of guys getting circulated through. You're going to learn a lot of new names that you haven't seen before because more guys are going to get a lot of playing time to keep the veterans fresh and everybody experienced in case injuries that will come down the stretch happen. In the end of this ball game, I think the Dogs cover. I think they win by 20, actually. They come out, what they did at Florida State, what they did at Oregon, that's the kind of same Georgia football team you're going to see on Saturday afternoon. They're going to be aggressive, and they're going to take it right to Clemson, and they're going to show people they are truly the number one team in the country, at least for the first week of the year.
Yeah, Press, you channeling your inner Bob Uecker there from the opening of Major League is that we got a bunch of new names. Hopefully put some faces with these new names here. Fresh, I'm going to tell you, this has got to be a body bagging. Georgia's going to have to come into this game and body bag Clemson. And I know that that's really easy to say as a person who is sitting here talking about college football. But here's the reason why Georgia has to body bag Clemson in this game. And it can't be even close. Georgia's schedule is brutal this year. It's no longer feasting on the cupcakes of the SEC East. They're going to have to play one of the hardest schedules that I think is in college football. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about that. If they go in and body bag Clemson and they just take them to the woodshed, they just beat the living trash out of them in this game, then what we're going to see is that they did that to Clemson. This team is ready to go through that gauntlet, and they're ready to rock and roll. Because that gauntlet is going to start at the end of September there when you travel to Tuscaloosa. Now, you're coming off a bye that week, but it is something that a lot of people are going to watch. If you're a Georgia fan, you're going to always believe in your team to win. That's part about being a fan as well. But what you also want to do is not give teams hope. You want to extinguish their hope that, oh, you're coming into our house. Now, again, they're going to be cocky. They're players. They always are going to think they're going to win. If they don't think that way, then you don't want them on the team. But you want that aura around you. You want that aura of going into places like Tuscaloosa and go, we are going to be in for 60 minutes of sheer hell in these football games. And that's going to start with this football game. Clemson, to me, is a above average team. They're okay. They're not a great team. They're not the Clemson of old. But if Cade Klubnik throws for 300 yards on you and still you win by 14 or 17 points, everyone's going to be like, you get a nice little golf clap, like everyone's happy for you. Oh, good, it's a good win, good win, good win. Someone still put up some serious stats on you. And a guy like Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe is going to look at that and go, there's something there right there. I'm going to be able to throw for 350. I'm going to be able to throw against all of them. Or if Beck doesn't have a stud wide receiver, or if ETN doesn't transition to show like he can be the next dominant Georgia running back, that's a lot of pressure to put on a team. And I know that with great elite level players, like you should welcome that level of pressure. But again, we're also talking about 19, 20, 21-year-old kids here. Sooner or later, that's going to come down to roost here. This Clemson team, they do have some talent on it. They do have a good defense here as well. I'm intrigued to see if they have a wide receiver, whether it's Brown, whether it's Brinstool, the tight end, stepping up to be able to give Georgia fits. Georgia's got a lot of people that they need to replace. And you all know that if you, again, listen to me, one of the things I hate more than anything else is them going, oh, it's just the next man up. No, it's not. Like, you take a look at the kid that's replacing Brock Bowers, Oscar Delp, or Yorsek, whichever one's going to get the starting nod here. I don't know which one it is. But saying, okay, hey, kid, we need you to do exactly the same as Brock Bowers, who was the second-round draft pick in the NFL. Hey, good luck to you. Next man up. Next man up, guys.
That's where you
Yeah,
say you have to be yourself.
right,
Because you try to be
exactly.
somebody else, then you start overthinking it. You just got to play your own game.
Right. You got to run your own race on this part. And that's what I'm saying with this football game here. I think Georgia is going to be geared up for this one. I'm going to call this one, and I'm going to say this one will be over at halftime. I think hopefully Kirby Smart sees that idea as well and say that we need to just put the boots down. I'm talking a good old-fashioned butt whipping to Clemson. Dabo's left shaking his head on there because he's one of the few teams that don't use the transfer portal and go, maybe it's time for us to change. And maybe this is better for Clemson. Maybe if Clemson needs to take such a bad loss that finally Dabo starts to change his ways and go, yeah, we're going to just bring kids in recruitment. These are Clemson players and they're in our image. I'm like, man, that's no longer the world. That was the world maybe 5-6 years ago, but that's not the world today. So I got Georgia 24 plus.
Well, I mean, one thing I think we also want to see from the Dogs is their run defense. You mentioned it in some preview episodes where they've given some more yards in the past couple of years. It's not the 21 defense out there anymore. 22, 23 gave up some yards last year. Can those guys get a little more back to normal, attack the running game and shut it down? If they shut down Mappa and they make Klubnik one-dimensional, Clemson's in trouble. But you want to see how that run defense sort of settles in, how the guys get their fits, the linebackers sliding in. That's going to be a big thing from the defensive perspective. And Ole Miss made the change this last year. They realized their front seven, offensive, defensive line, were getting pummeled. They didn't have enough dudes in the trenches like Alabama and Georgia. They got beat in both those games. They went to the portal. If Clemson's getting run, you've got to figure that out. They've got to get some more dudes in here that can own the line of scrimmage from a defensive offensive line perspective, because that's where the game is truly going to be won and lost. That's football. It's a line of scrimmage football. It's a line of scrimmage game. If they can get back to that perspective, that's the only way they're going to learn is if they get whooped and they have to make those changes through the portal to get better players in.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, let's go to our game of the week. This is what everyone has been waiting for. I think this is going to wind up being the best game of the weekend. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are traveling down to Kyle Field, which apparently is rated the number one most difficult to play. I disagree, but alas, it's not time for here nor there. Texas A&M 3-point favorite in this game. Irish, man, they're reeling. Lost their starting left, the guy who is going to have to replace you, Joe Alt. Lost him for the year, it looks like. It's going to be interesting. They bring in Riley Leonard to run that offense. They got Love, the running back, coming back. They got some really talented players on this Notre Dame team. Can they protect Leonard? That's my question.
I mean, this defense is loaded. Morrison at corner, Watt, Howard Cross, Kisner at linebacker. Like there's some legit talent on this defense. Offensively, Riley Leonard, I think he's a much better quarterback than what they had last year through the transfer portal in the ACC. Receiver talent, I think they've gotten a little bit better there. But the offensive line, for the first time, you mentioned Joe Alt getting drafted. Obviously, Fisher got drafted, as well. Then his replacement comes in, tears ACL out, I believe, toward the ACL. Now you have a true freshman starting at left tackle potentially. The rest of the guys are kind of suspect and trying to get the gel of the offensive line together. Not the best place to go. Was Peck. Not the best place to be heading into with offensive line issues across the board. Inexperience, continuity, all that sort of thing. If Riley Leonard can stay upright and they can run the football and play an ugly defensive-led football game, they have a chance. If they get to a shootout with Connor Wegman and that A&M offense, which under Colin Klein could possibly happen, I don't know if they have enough to keep up because eventually that A&M defense will catch. Mike Elko can coach the defense, and those guys will get there. Notre Dame's got to make it ugly. You're going on the road. Protect your quarterback. Run the football. It's easier to get off the ball and block for a running game than it is to have to worry about pass pro and getting the different checks at the line of scrimmage. Run the football. Dictate the line of scrimmage. Wear the game out. Let your defense force short fields. Let your defense get after it. Force some turnovers. Do not try to be a hero on the offensive side of the ball. Riley Leonard, I also hope this season you're actually 100% healthy because last year, When you played Notre Dame at Duke, your injury knocked you out of the ballgame. You had a chance to beat Notre Dame. When you were at Tallahassee and playing Florida State, you had a chance to win, but you were knocked out of the ballgame hurt. And hope you're healthy. If you're healthy, you can make this team you can take this team to another level. But being healthy is the most important part. Sometimes not running when you should, um, might help you because you're going to take extra hit there. Sometimes just getting down, sliding, getting out of bounds. Maybe that one extra yard where you're going to get knocked at a good, give it up. Give yourself up. Save your body. Think the long game. Because if you're knocked out, Notre Dame's done. You are going to carry this team one way or another. You've got to be mindful of that entire experience. Learn from last year, get healthy, and go forward. A&M got a new sheriff in town. Jimbo is gone. Mike Elko is a football coach's football coach. This team is going to be aggressive and physical. They are going to pop people in the mouth. A lot of the guys from that 2 years ago, the Big Ten recruiting class and all the extra money and the nonsense and whatnot, I think they cleaned most of them out. All that now, these guys are football players who are going to play for the Aggies. They're going to play 100% for Elko and that entire team. That's what I think they are. That's what A&M really is at the heart. They're guys, they don't care about the glitz and glamour. They play for A&M. That's why the 12th man exists. They play for each other. They play physical. The whole Junction Boys mentality from way back in the 50s. It's that we're going to just pop you and to make you feel when you came to play us, you're going to hurt. That's what's going to happen here. We're going to have a knockout, drag out, old school football game on Saturday night. It's not going to be a 35-30. Johnny Manziel ain't running around throwing touchdown passes in the ball game, folks. This is going to be a 17-10, 13, 10 ball game. Late second half points, early first half might be very slow and lethargic, but defense are going to figure it out. They're going to own the game from the beginning, and eventually someone's going to wear someone down. I think Notre Dame has just enough to find a way to get it done. I think Riley Leonard, Connor Wegman's a good quarterback. I think Riley Leonard's been through the battles. He wants his redemption tour. That defense will shorten the field just enough for them. Notre Dame will win 17-13 on a late drive by Riley Leonard and the Irish to pull away and get it done. They've learned through their experiences. They've played Ohio State the past 2 years very tough. They are going to learn from those two experiences. Coach Freeman's going to learn from those experiences, and that's going to help them get the win in this ball game on Saturday. It will be a great testament. A&M will show up, and you'll see the progress they've made there under Elko in a very, very short time. But Coach Freeman and the Irish will go down there and escape with a W.
Fresh, I am truly excited to watch this Notre Dame secondary give Connor Wegman fits all day. And I think that they easily can do that. Now, I am interested to see how Ja'Day Walker does in this offense. He was a transfer from Grand Valley State, from Cleveland, Ohio. Kid out of Shaker Heights there, my neck of the woods where I grew up, a little bit west of that though. But I think that this Mike Elko's got a little bit different of talent than what he had at Duke. And he's staring across from the kid who's going to know Riley Leonard, what he's able to do, what he's not able to do better than Mike Elko. And I think that's going to be a really big factor of this game. How healthy is this kid? Coming back from all those injuries from last year. And you're right, this kid, he needs to be able to, if he's taken off using his legs, he's got to get down, get out of bounds instead of taking those hits. It also is going to be, can Jeremiah Love be able to run the football against this A&M defense? That is where they were an elite level team last year, was in their rush defense there. If Love is able to get 4 yards of carry in this game, and again, doesn't have to break off a bunch of big runs, but if he's able to control the line of scrimmage, stay ahead of the sticks, let's use all sorts of cliches here, then I think that A&M could have some struggles, because when Leonard drops back to pass, I think that they're going to have a lot more challenges than what they've had in years past. I'm going to say this one. The kid who is going to announce himself in this football game is Jaden Greathouse. Sophomore wide receiver for them. I like this kid. He had 5 touchdowns last year. He's a sophomore. He's kind of like a stud wide receiver that's kind of come into it. He got his legs under him as a freshman. This is going to be the year that he makes the jump. He's going to wind up being Riley Leonard's one of his favorite targets in this game. I got him having a big game for it. I think this game is going to have a little more points than you do, Fresh, but I'm going to go the same thing. I'm going a field goal game, 27-24. Notre Dame wins this football game.
Nice. I mean, I think we have a fun ball game here. It's gonna be a great full 20, full of entertainment for all of us to watch. One A&M player I'm paying attention to, running back Amari Daniels. With Ruben Owens being lost for the year, now it's just him. I got a feeling they're going to feed him a lot, especially early in the football game. He might get 150 yards, but it'll be like 25, 30 carries. They'll just keep churning him and churning him and churning him. But as the season goes on, Daniels could be a really, really big time player in the SEC race.
Yeah. Don't they still have the Moss kid too? Le'Veon Moss?
I think he's on the roster as well, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, with both of them there as well. Fresh, this is going to be a great way to cap off the weekend there, especially on Saturday night. I think this is going to be just a fun football game to do. And when we have our recap show, we're going to be locked in for this as well. And are you ready to introduce our new segment, folks, as we're moving into this, is our prize picks of the week, what we're doing on it. We're putting our money where our mouth is. We're picking 3 games. Fresh has picked a game. I've picked a game. And our producer, Drew, has thrown out a mystery bag game. We're starting off the year. We're going to put each one of us is going to put our hard-earned money into these games here as well. And we will track our progress throughout the season. Fresh, what game did you select?
I'm going out to the islands. I'm taking the UCLA-Hawaii game, and even specifically, I'm taking the over on the 55.5. The reason why, I think UCLA's defense is not going to be what it was the past few years with DC leaving and a lot of players leaving. Offensively, UCLA will be able to score. Hawaii's offense under Timmy Chang and Braden Schrager, that they will put up some points. I think that will get like a 30-24 kind of thing. 31-24, 34-27 at least, and be able to hit the over 55.
Yeah, we're doing the over and under for that game there, Fresh. So I will take the over as well on the UCLA-Hawaii game. Hey, life is more fun out on the islands as well, and defense doesn't need to travel at all.
No.
All right, Fresh. My game that I'm picking for us is Fresno State traveling to the Big House. Michigan is a 21.5 point favorite in this game. And I think I'm going up against my better judgment in this game. I'm going to say the Michigan Wolverines are going to cover the 21.5 because they are going to be right pissed off and just be so angry about everything and all the talk about them all offseason. That poor old Fresno State, and as much as I do love Fresno State, folks, Fresno State is going to be the one that'll take the victim and take the body bagging by the Wolverines.
I'm actually going to take the over on the 46.5 in that game. I think Fresno State gets 10 points, but like you said, Michigan's going to be pissed off. Sherrone Moore being the offensive coordinator, or Reggie being and Edwards there. They're going to want to put points up, and they're going to put points up a lot. And they might even get a defensive score. So I'm going with the over the 46.5 in that game.
That's a good one. All right, and the one that we had to get, we got the surprise pick here. Our producer, Drew, sent us Western Michigan going to Wisconsin. Fresh, Western Michigan. What are you taking in this game?
I'm taking Wisconsin to cover the 24.5. I think Luke Fickell knows he needs to start off strong and really announce. Tyler Van Dyke and that offense got to get going. Will Pauling. I think they come out firing all cylinders and also want to get that defense rolling and maybe get a score or two, but they will cover the 24.5.
Yeah, I'm going as well. Western Michigan last year, not a great football team. 4-8 on the year. Give me I'll take Wisconsin and the 24.5 as well. They need to announce themselves and Tyler Van Dyke needs to say that, hey, I'm not the guy. Mario Cristobal was the problem. So, all right, folks, that's been our week 1 episode. Hey, before you head out of here, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Get notified every single time we drop a new episode. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Make sure you're visiting SpinnableSports.com because the Irrational Competence Podcast is part of SpinnableSports.com. Like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts from. Leave us that 5-star review because you guys know Fresh and I, we are those 2 5-star prospects. And make sure you're following us on the social medias. Interact with us on Twitter. Engage with us. We love talking to you guys. We're pretty active over there on the X, whatever they call it these days, and enjoy talking to different fans. Tell us how right we are. Tell us how wrong we are. We enjoy it. And the one thing is, we'll never disguise that we're closet Oregon State fans, but we're out and about Oregon State fans. So.
Hey, it's football season, everybody. Join us any way possible. SpindleSports.com, the YouTube channel, on the socials. We'd love to hear from you. Want to engage? Can't wait. Games are here. It's time to go. With that, bye, y'all.